Good day everyone. In this video, I will discuss the e-learning. It is under the Part 8, Human Resource Development. So before anything else, let us know first what is e-learning. What is e-learning? E-learning is defined by Pollard and Helage in 2001 as a delivery and administration of learning opportunities and support via computer, network, and web-based technology to help individual performance and development. E-learning enhances learning by extending and supplementing face-to-face learning rather than replacing it. So the term e-learning first appeared in the US in the middle of 1990s but became prominent in the late 1990s. Like many human resource practices, it was based on earlier developments such as computer-based training, supported online training, and open or distance learning, and informal e-learning derived from knowledge management approaches. The main difference is that e-learning is essentially web-based, although it can include the use of distributed technology products, mainly CD-ROMs, which do not require the user's computer to be networked. E-learning is not so much about technology as about learning based on technology. However, it is the use of the intranet that has offered most scope for learning. In its fully developed form, e-learning is a more comprehensive approach to learning than the earlier developments, especially when blended with other learning methods. There are different types of e-learning, and these are the self-paced e-learning, in which when the learner is using technology but is not connected to instructors or other learners at the same time. The next one is the live e-learning, in which by the use of technology, the instructor and the learner are together at the same time but in different locations. And the next one is the collaborative e-learning, which supports learning through the exchange and sharing of information and knowledge among learners by means of discussion forums, communities of practice, bulletin boards, and chat rooms. So now let's proceed to the aim of e-learning. So in the words of Pollard and Helage in 2001, the objective is to provide for learning that is just in time, just enough, and just for you. It enables learning to take place when it is most needed, or just in time as distinct from just in case, and when it is not convenient. Learning can be provided in short segments or bites that focus on specific learning objectives. It is learner-centric in that it can be customized to suit an individual's learning needs. Like learners can choose different learning objectives within an overall package. So now let's move on to the technology of e-learning. E-learning can offer up-to-date information to learners who are widely distributed geographically. Collaboration and the sharing of information between learners are possible, but learners tend to work much of the time in isolation. The basic principle of e-learning is connectivity, in which the process by which computers are networked, share information, and connect people to people. This is provided for by what is often called the e-learning landscape or architecture, which refers to the hardware, software, and connectivity components required to facilitate learning. In designing the system, consideration has to be given to functionality, in which what each part is expected to do. So the main components of the e-learning landscape are the Learning Management System or LMS, in which this provides users with access to various learning processes and enables self-paced e-learning to take place. It can also help with administration, including curriculum management and course publishing. The next one is the Learning Content Management System or LCMS. This provides a tutoring system for course or program preparation, a collection of learning objectives or modules, or sometimes called a repository, and the means of sending a completed course to a delivery system, or sometimes called a delivery interface. So the last one is the learning portals, in which these are access points to learning information services that enable learners to locate content. So now let's move on to the e-learning process. The e-learning process comprises defining the system, encouraging access, advising and assisting individual learnings, and encouraging and facilitating the creation of learning communities. E-learning focuses on the learner. It provides a means of satisfying individual learning needs, but individual learning may be supplemented by participation in learning groups or communities of interest in which members both gain and share knowledge. So the emphasis is on self-paced learning, in which learners control the rate at which they learn, although they may be given targets for completion and guidance from tutors on how they should learn. However, while self-directed learning is encouraged and provided for, the impact of e-learning is strongly influenced by how well support is provided to learners. It's the effectiveness of the support rather than the sophistication of the technology that counts. The quality of the content is important, but it will be enhanced by support from tutors or e-moderators. So the latter, described by Salmon in 2001, preside over the activities of a learning group in knowledge exchange forums, arranging contribution, information sharing, and providing guidance and comments as appropriate. So the e-learning program content. E-learning programs may cover common business application and processes, induction programs, and frequently IT skills development. So they are not so effective for developing soft skills such as team building, communication, or presentation that rely on interpersonal contact. But programs can still present basic principles that can prepare people for practical face-to-face sessions, provide reinforcement through post-event reading, help with self-assessment, and lead to chatroom support. Programs may consist of generic content purchased from suppliers, but most organizations prefer customized web-based modules developed either in-house or outsourced to software firms that produce material to a specified design. So the content should be constructed in accordance with the following pedagogic principles. So first is learners must be stimulated by the learning process. The program and content should be seen to be intrinsically relevant. The method of presentation should be interesting. Use should be made of graphics, animations, audio, interactive simulations, scenarios, case studies, projects, questions and answer sessions, and problem-solving activities were appropriate, in which the program should not simply involve page turning. So learners must be encouraged to respond to stimuli and should be engaged in the learning process. Learners should understand their learning goals, preferably working them out for themselves but with help where necessary. The program should be constructed in incremental steps and presented in bite-sized chunks or modules, each with clear objectives and outcomes. Learners should be able to plan their learning or self-paced learning. Learners must be able to measure their own progress but should be given feedback as well. Learners should be encouraged to reflect on what they are learning by reference to their own experience. So the content can be prepared with the help of authoring tools such as Macromedia or AutoWare and Flash. Delivery of e-learning. E-learning is delivered through website and the internet. CD-ROOMs are also used extensively. Provision can be made for online coaching and discussion forums. The content can be delivered through PowerPoint, video and audio clips, drag and drop questions, PDF files, links to websites, and with enabled forums and learning communities. So the next one is the blended e-learning. In the sense of blended e-learning is balanced learning in that a balance needs to be struck between electronic learning, face-to-face learning, and informal group learning through teams and communities of interest. So an example of a blended program is shown below. These are the blended learning program example. So in stage 1, it has self-paced e-learning, like initial e-learning module, In stage 2, it has self-paced practice using e-learning modules and simulation. In stage 3, live e-learning, which involvement with tutors and other learners. And in stage 4, it has face-to-face learning in classroom. So that is the example of a blended learning program. So now let's proceed to the business case for e-learning. E-learning can enable flexibility of access and interrogation of high volumes of diverse learning resources in different locations. It can speed up the learning process by as much as 50% and focus on critical learning needs in the organization. The cost of training can be halved by decreasing the number of instructor hours. As stated by Van Dam in 2004, self-paced e-learning can be taken anytime and is therefore a just-in-time approach. E-learning can be taken at any place, whether it's in the office, at home, or other locations, which eliminates the travel needs and cost. Skills acquisition and knowledge development will take place at any pace and in any path, as the learning experience is solely driven by the participant and therefore very personalized. Anyone in the organization can engage in e-learning and participate and share experience and knowledge in e-learning collaboration sessions. In developing e-learning processes, there are main steps required to develop. The first one is the initial analysis. So it includes the following. Number 1 is define or redefine the human resource development strategy within the context of the organization's business strategy, external environment, culture, and technologies. So the next one is identify organizational learning needs, such what should be invested in people in order to develop the intellectual capital of the organization, extend its stock of knowledge and skills, and thus increase its organizational capability. The next one is, in the light of the above, assess the strengths and weaknesses of the present arrangement for developing people. So the next is the scope for e-learning. Another this is identify the overall scope for developing e-learning systems. The need to enhance present arrangement with a blended approach that uses complementary and mutually supportive methods of delivering learning also needs to be assessed. So the next one is to identify any areas in which e-learning might be particularly appropriate because there are well-established learning needs that can be met by electronic as well as more traditional means. Establish what specific opportunities technology offers to enhance knowledge. Establish the extent to which employees will have access to computers. Next is development programs. Under this is for each aspect of learning in which scope for e-learning has been established. Produce a specification defining the learning need, how e-learning will meet the need, the learning system that should be used, broadly the content of the learning to be delivered, how e-learning will blend with other forms of training, the extent to which the program is to cater for individual or group learning, and who will be responsible within the organization for developing and delivering e-learning. So next is decide on the extent to which learning systems, including the content of e-learning programs, it should be developed in-house or purchased from outside suppliers. The factors to be taken into consideration will be the availability of resources within the organization to develop content, the degree to which the material needs to be tailor-made to fit the organization, the likelihood of suitable material being available elsewhere, and the comparative cost of each option. So the next one is if it is decided that external suppliers should be used, identify possible organizations or on the basis of recommendations as far as possible. The criteria for choice should be understanding of the requirements, the learning methods employed, or the pedagogic principles and the theoretical perspective from which the methods are derived, the outcomes associated with the methods and how they will measure, suitability of learning material, and the cost. So next, select untrained tutors and e-moderators. Next, ensure the facilities for e-learning, such as computers, learning resource centers, are available. Take into account the possible need to provide guidance to users of learning resource centers on the use of the equipment. So next is implementation, in which under this is prepare briefing material, ensure that everyone is aware of the facilities for e-learning, the part they and their managers will play, the support they will receive from tutors and moderators. Under this is to ensure e-learning arrangements are linked to other HR initiatives such as performance management, career planning, and knowledge management. Next is launch e-learning, possibly starting with a pilot scheme in a department or a specific area of learning, such as IT. So the last step is evaluation, in which you will monitor and evaluate the performance and impact of e-learning. So the examples of e-learning is the B&Q, Black & Decker, Prudential Financial, and the Unilever. So in B&Q, all the content of the B&Q e-learning system was produced as customized learning modules, focusing on the needs of store-based employees. For example, the showroom module, which deals with selling kitchens and bathrooms, uses both audio and visual components with options for different customer types. All modules are delivered in bite-sized chunks and provide learners with information on their progress. So in Black & Decker, the blended program for sales representatives consists of 16 self-paced e-learning courses, on-the-job training, classroom training, and mentoring. In Prudential Financial, new starters take part in the Life Center New Starters program for 7 weeks. 60% of the program time is self-paced e-learning using simulation extensively, and 40% is instructor-led. So the last example is the Unilever. In Unilever operates a leadership development blended program that balances online work with classroom sessions and coaching. A web-enabled community tool is used, which begins with a virtual experimental module in order to develop the thinking and the dialogue prior to the face-to-face program. It continues to support virtual teamwork and encourages participants to engage in learning beyond the program itself. Assignments and projects are used throughout the program. These include individual projects focused on personal development, business improvement, and a business proposal project. So that's all. Thank you for listening and have a good day, everyone.